Okay, George Rogers Clark time. We're going to get right into it. Born in Virginia, 1752. You might know his youngest brother, William Clark, from the Lewis and Clark expedition. Basically what he did was he claimed territories for the Americans during the Revolution. And I'm going to go through this kind of quick, so bear with me. So he devised a plan to take some settlements away from the British. A lot of these settlements were occupied by French militia that were left over from the war down south for Louisiana. So that's why he took this priest, Pierre Gibault. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Pierre basically tried to convince the French with him that to align with him and kick the British out of Fort Detroit. Hamilton was up there paying French militia and native tribes. He was giving them lots of money and resources to go attack American settlements. And Clark wanted to head them off at the pass, because you have to remember, at the time, everything north of the Ohio like that was it was the Wild West. I mean, it was the frontier. That's what everyone was fighting for. So his plan was to go to Kaskaskia and take that, go north to Cahokia, which is why I'm making this video, because of its ties to that and the native tribes around there. And basically, he asked Patrick Henry, the governor of Virginia at the time, could he do it, and he let him. They tried to explain to him it was a suicide mission, basically, but they let him do it. And they said he was going to have, they basically lied to him and said he was going to have all these people when he showed up in Ohio at the meeting point, and he didn't. 1777, they call it the year of Bloody Sevens. Hamilton, up in Fort Detroit, was a monster. They called him the hair buyer because he would purchase scalps from the natives of American settlers. But George Rogers Clark met the few people he did have, some Kentucky riflemen and some boys from Tennessee, and he got a move on. He trained them, and then he finally told them the truth. Some of the guys deserted. They weren't with it. So, it was June 26th, 1778, that they finally left out. There was a solar eclipse there, and they thought that was a good sign for them for victory. But they then proceeded towards Kaskaskia. They rode to the Tennessee River and hiked for 6 days dressed up as Native Americans and in single file to hide their numbers should they be tracked. But, what was so incredible about this is he went there and took Kaskaskia without ever firing a shot. Part of that was Pierre, the French priest, who kind of appealed to them. He was French, so he let them know that George Rogers Clark was a guy they could trust. And he had a meeting. He called a lot of native chiefs to his encampment, and he appealed to them too. He was a powerful speaker, and he basically told these guys, that I know you think the British are paying you well now, but there's going to be a time when they make your way of life go away, and I don't want to do that, but they do. And they agreed. So he sent a war party north. They took Cahokia the same way, basically, without firing a shot, and then they trudged on towards Vincennes. And the reason why is because there was a man in St. Louis named Francis Vigo, and he was a Spanish dude who it was a rich businessman, very prominent figure there, and he basically came to George Rogers Clark and said, hey, Hamilton took Vincennes again, but he sent his whole party north back to Fort Detroit. So George Rogers Clark said, now's the time. They don't have time to double back and protect him. So they basically caught him slipping at Vincennes and Fort Sackville. So, but it was a long, arduous journey. I mean, they had to walk through a floodplain. Sometimes it was flooded up to shoulder height water. And when they got to that floodplain, it was, and if you ever go to this site, you'll see they have a video in the museum they'll play you, and it talks about how he just inspired the hell out of these people. because everyone was scared. They didn't want to jump in this water and trudge through for days and days to try to take Vincennes. But you know, that's where his prowess kind of shines. Supposedly, the story goes is that he leaned over and grabbed mud on both his hands and wiped it down his face like paint and let out a battle cry and charged into the water. And everyone, without even protesting at all, just jumped in with him. And that's where we're going to end part one. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from this. In part two, I'm going to focus on the battle, getting there, or actually getting to the battle, and you know, what they had to go through when they got there, and what happened, you know, after that battle and as a result of it. So I want to thank you for watching, and until the next video, you know, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself. Peace.
Thank you.